Bonjour everyone, Pantoufleee here today for a new video on Tank Company in which we have the pleasure of talking about a tier 7 Russian heavy tank, probably the best out there, the Object 257, that will lead you directly to what I consider to be the best heavy tank in this game actually, the IS-7. Concerning the important statistics to notice about the tank, let's say that you have 440 alpha damage with an amazing 12.2 seconds of reload. The armor penetration is quite good as well, since you get 250 with your regular shell, 315 with your gold shell, and 68 with HE. The two big problems you are gonna encounter while using the Object 257 are the gun dispersion. This tank is definitely not accurate, which means that you need to fully focus before shooting, and at the same time, having only 5 degrees of gun depression is definitely hard for you to play on multiple types of terrains, such as slopes, hills, etc, etc. Luckily for you, the tank compensates with multiple aspects, such as its armor, specifically on the turret, where it becomes impossible for anyone to penetrate you, except for the little cupola you are seeing right there. Not necessarily the roof itself, but the cupolas are definitely a weak spot that people will try to aim at. On top of that, there is something really strange with the tank, and I don't see if I can showcase it directly into the armor profile here, but basically there is a whole line here where people can't penetrate you at all. I couldn't tell you exactly where it is, but even if it says that here you have the possibility of penetrating, most of the time when people shoot on this line specifically, they will bounce out of nowhere. Now I would like to talk a little bit about the main aspect, which is the lower part of the hull. Of course, here what seems to be a weak spot is definitely not, because you still have 215 millimeters of armor, and at the same time at the top you see that you are not in rest, because it's definitely hard to penetrate that tank frontally. Keep in mind that you have a pike nose, which means that if you try to angle just even a little bit like that in order to bounce, what you are going to do is destroy your armor potential. What you want to do with the Object 257 is always stay in front of your opponents to maximize your armor profile. Now let's talk about the equipments I'm using on the tank, and I'm using the exact same one I had on the IS-3, aka the Ammo to reload faster, the ballistic computer to get a better gun dispersion, to finish off with the turbocharger to be a faster tank. So, what are you supposed to do with this tank? The best would be to find a position from which you can show your turret only, because it's the most armored part of the tank. But of course, regarding your -5 degrees of gun depression, it's going to be something quite horrific and not optimal. So what you want to do is rather going with the rest of your team, like packing some heavy tanks to follow you, and just go straight, attack the opponents, play aggressively. And sorry, I have some air in my mouth. I was saying, you want to play aggressively. So what are we going to do? You see that we are going on the heavy side of this map. And for those of you that never played on it, this is where you're supposed to go with heavy. But if you take a look at my map right now, you see that I'm not followed. I'm assuming that my friends are going to come with me, which means that I'm going to hold the position a little bit. And here we go. You see the first and main problem of the tank, the gun dispersion. If you shoot while not being fully aimed, your shell will struggle getting where you are aiming. Whereas if you wait for your full reload, you see that you have the possibility of sneaking your shots quite easily. Now, 440 alpha damage is kind of a weird alpha. Weird for one reason, the RNG. If you are lucky enough, you're gonna have shots that will do above 440 alpha damage, so around 500. If it's the case, you are definitely gonna inflict some fear in your opponents, because they will just struggle. Take a look at this T-54 for example. I did a high roll, and if I did 3 high rolls, so 3 shots only, I will be able to destroy the guy. And it seems like he's no longer moving. I don't know why, but it's perfect. Just stay here for the picture, T-54. I totally agree with you. And if you do below 440, you are just going to become a regular American tank that has 400 alpha damage, and you are not going to be as scary as you could be. Which means that you rely a little bit on the RNG for the outcome of your battle, and specifically for the outcome of are your enemies going to push you or not. Now, We kill the first, there is still an E75 in the back, and you see that we managed to bounce. We managed to bounce because we stayed in front of him without trying to angle the tank at all. And now I'm not gonna bother, I'm not gonna stay in front of the E75. I know that the guy is reloading, so what I'm gonna do instead is trying to rush the mediums, because as soon as we kill all the heavies and mediums that are running around, the easier it becomes for me to kill the E75 that will get pushed by all of my allies. So another Object 257 and an I6. So there we go. Are we going to be able to kill the T-54E1 or are we going to shoot the E75? You know me, I like damage. Boom, there we go for the E75, waiting for one of my allies to kill the T-54E1. We are already sitting at 3.6k damage and it's gonna keep climbing. There we go with the E75, perfectly angling his lower plate for us as he tries to retreat, and we just have to push him. Something I forgot to mention, just take a look at my mobility. It's just excellent on this tank. You are going so freaking fast. I'm destroying the terrain here, going at more than 40 kilometers per hour in a freaking hill. It's just dope. And not even down a hill, up a hill, right? So now we only have to deal with the Martian camping. We go for a first shot. It seems like our friend bounced out of nowhere, the Martian. And the guy dies before we could do anything. Not a problem. Now we are facing a T-95. And of course, you know the T-95 and its gorgeous mobility. We are going to circle the boy without even struggling. And I'm even sure that the guy will not take care of us, not at all, allowing us to snap a shell. And now I'm thinking, okay, he really wants to get on the T-92 light. So what we're going to do instead of focusing on this boy is go for the artillery that is probably camping nearby. So there we go, we are trying to spot the guy. There he is, we snap a shell, and of course, as I really want to get the kill on the RT, I go in, I give him a little kiss, and we go back. So what did you see during this video, and specifically during this replay? You saw someone play aggressively but carefully with this Object 257. Because the problem is, a lot of players tend to think that because they are playing a Russian tank, and specifically a Russian heavy tank, they are invincible and they will roll on the battlefield, destroy everyone, while not getting, how could I say that? While not seeing the consequences of their own actions, let's say it like that. But basically, if you do not try to do a mix between playing aggressively and playing carefully, you are going to get destroyed. So my 3 advice with the tank are, if you can, on flat grounds, always play all down. If you can't, try some side scrape, it works effectively with the tank. And finally, if you are facing someone, make sure to not angle your tank at all, because the more you angle, the harder it becomes for you to bounce the shell from your opponents. That being said, the Object 257 is definitely a tank I will keep in my garage and play from time to time, because not only does it look beautiful, it's also an amazing tank to have good stats, to farm damage on your account if you want to, and all of that makes it a tank to keep. Hopefully you enjoyed. If that's the case, feel free to subscribe, like, and share. Personally, I'm gonna see you soon for a new video. Bye.